Anger is like a fire that ignites suddenly, a heat that runs through the body and accelerates the heartbeat. You feel it rising from a deep place, like a spark finding a loose thread in your patience and consuming it without warning. Sometimes it's a small flame, a flash, and other times it becomes a wildfire that seems hard to contain. It's that force that arises when something inside you opposes what's happening outside, a reaction that catches you by surprise but also has its reason for being. Perhaps it comes from the exhaustion of waiting, from words left unsaid, from broken promises, or from the feeling of not being heard. And even if you try to suppress it, its energy seeks a way out, attempting to manifest in gestures, words, or silences. But anger is also a compass. It reflects a crossed boundary, something we don't accept, an alert asking for attention. Understanding it and knowing where it comes from is like learning to tame fire. It allows us to use its warmth without burning ourselves, helping us discover what we stand for, what truly matters to us. Unmanaged anger is like a storm growing silently. You get up thinking the day is fine, but a small jolt or setback can turn that calm into dark clouds covering every thought, every word. Each moment you spend without managing it is like feeding the thunder rumbling within, growing stronger, becoming harder to control. But what happens when you choose to face it? It's not about suppressing or ignoring it, but looking at it directly and asking, "Why are you here?" Accepting it not as an enemy but as a signal asking you to pause. Then, anger stops being a destructive force and becomes a tool, a reminder of something that needs attention. Mastering it in daily life means learning to release the weight of those clouds and choosing peace over impulse. It's the art of creating space between what you feel and what you decide to do. This way, you find clarity instead of tension, relief instead of resentment. Learning to manage anger is an act of liberation. It's choosing, again and again, to be in control of yourself, even when the fire feels too intense. Since ancient times, anger has been a flame ignited in different cultures, a force that each society has tried to understand and contain in its own way. In feudal Japan, learning to tame anger was the way of the samurai. Controlling it was a reflection of honor and respect. They viewed uncontrolled anger as a weakness, a poison that harms both the warrior and his surroundings. In Buddhist philosophy, anger is an emotion that clouds the mind and creates suffering, an obstacle on the path to enlightenment. It teaches us to observe, understand, and then let it go, like a river flowing without holding on to anything. In the West, anger became an expression weapon, even a right, but also an emotional burden that, if accumulated, can erode mental health. The Stoics, from ancient Rome, saw it as an obstacle to wisdom. Controlling anger was the first step toward a balanced life. But in some modern societies, expressing anger became synonymous with authenticity, showing that one is alive and that something matters. However, such unchecked expression often leaves wounds, not only in others but also in oneself. Each culture, in its own way, has found a way to deal with anger, and today we continue to learn from these teachings. We now know that, without managing it, anger impacts mental health, creating anxiety, exhaustion, and sometimes silent pain that accumulates in the body. Understanding and channeling it is an act of wisdom, a gesture of compassion toward oneself and others, a universal skill that each culture, in its own way, has taught us to value. Anger is that internal roar, that spark that ignites the body and mind when we feel that something or someone has crossed an invisible line. It's a natural reaction, almost like a defense mechanism activated to protect us or to shout that something isn't right. It may arise in response to injustice, disrespect, the frustration of seeing our expectations fall, or from that small accumulation of daily annoyances that slowly build up, like drops filling a glass to the brim. Behind that fire, there's often a fear of not being heard, the pain of feeling misunderstood, or the unfulfilled desire to have control over circumstances. Each cause is like a spark that, when it touches the dry wood of our emotions, ignites a flame that grows and feeds on our reactions. Sometimes, anger emerges from unmet expectations, broken promises, or unexpected obstacles that make us feel that our efforts don't bear fruit. It can also stem from past wounds, memories that haven't yet healed and that reignite that flame every time something reminds us of them. Deep down, anger is a voice asking to be understood, a signal inviting us to reflect. It's not the enemy, but a messenger inviting us to look within, to search and understand what hurts us and, more importantly, why. Anger is like fire. It can be a guiding spark or a consuming blaze. There is a type of anger that is healthy, one that arises to set boundaries, to say enough. It's that drive that gives us the strength to defend our beliefs, to protect what we value, to signal that something affects us and needs to be heard. It's firm but not uncontrolled, provides light and clarity, and then subsides, leaving us stronger. Destructive anger, on the other hand, is the storm that ravages without discrimination, consuming without thought. It's when that force, instead of expressing something we need, turns into a whirlwind of hurtful words and impulses that don't measure consequences. It feeds on wounded pride, on frustration that has been held back for too long. It's a fire that doesn't seek justice but to release, to destroy, leaving nothing healthy in its wake. The difference lies in intention. Healthy anger is expressed to build, to resolve. Destructive anger is unleashed to destroy, regardless of what is left behind. Understanding this difference is what allows us to master it, because anger is not an enemy. It's the compass that can help us grow if we know when to extinguish the flame before it consumes too much. Anger doesn't appear out of nowhere. It's a mix of ingredients that, combined, increase its intensity, sometimes without us even noticing. There are moments when, under the pressure of stress, the spark ignites much faster. The mind and body are so tense, so saturated, that any friction seems enough to start a fire. Stress becomes that string stretched to its limit, responding strongly to the slightest pull. Then there are past experiences, like echoes that never quite fade away. Every time a situation reminds us of something that hurt, anger seems to respond with more intensity, trying to protect us from what has already happened but is still present, as if scars reopen at every opportunity. Those memories linger, listing the moments when we couldn't respond, the silences we accumulated, and in the present, they urge us to shout, to respond with all the force we once lacked. The environment, in turn, acts like wind on embers. When we are surrounded by an environment where peace is absent, anger becomes more likely to grow. Noisy, chaotic places, or people who carry their own discontent, all of that becomes fuel for a fire that seems to burn more easily. Thus, anger is not just a reaction. It's the reflection of a buildup of tensions and memories, of spaces that either facilitate or suppress it. It's the sum of what we carry within and what we face outside. Understanding this is the first step in deactivating the mechanism that makes us react so intensely. In the end, it's about releasing the pressure before it consumes us, learning to manage the fire without letting it burn us. When anger strikes, it brings with it a wave of thoughts that seem unstoppable. It's that impulse to always have the last word, to find ways to prove the other person wrong, that our reasons are stronger. In those moments, the mind becomes a harsh judge, watching every action, every word from the other, listing offenses, and seeking arguments as if it were a battle. Each thought fuels the fire, justifying each reaction. And along with the thoughts, come behaviors. Fists clench, muscles tense, breathing becomes faster. Words fly out like arrows, often without a filter, seeking a target. It could be a bang on the table, a slammed door, or a prolonged cold silence. The body becomes a reflection of that inner whirlwind, a clear sign that we are about to cross a line. In the midst of this storm, thoughts keep spinning, pushing us to remember old wounds, to add up grievances, as if they were excuses to justify the current anger. They've done this to me before. They never listened to me. It's always the same. These are phrases that build a wall, each brick made of accumulated resentment, of memories that refuse to remain in the past. But in that whirlwind, there is also a choice, a door we sometimes overlook, to observe those thoughts, to see them for what they are, to understand that we don't have to act on every impulse, that not everything we think needs to become reality. Because, at its core, learning to see those thoughts and behaviors as signals, not commands, is the key to ensuring that anger no longer owns us. Uncontrolled anger is like a river that overflows. At first, it's just a small crack in the wall, an extra word, a hard look. But over time, the water seeps in, the momentum grows, and that river starts invading every corner. Relationships become eroded territories, spaces filled with tension where every conversation is a trap waiting to spring. Without controlling anger, patience wears thin, and respect erodes. Communication becomes a minefield, where even moments of calm are filled with silences carrying unspoken reproaches. Laughter becomes rare, and trust fades little by little until one day, you look at the person beside you and don't see someone close but a stranger with whom you've shared more wounds than happy moments. Love, which should be a refuge, becomes a battleground, and words stop healing, only adding new scars. In the mind, uncontrolled anger also takes its toll. Each time it's unleashed, it leaves a mark, a dark residue in thoughts, feeding on insecurities, doubts, and fears. Anxiety grows, insomnia becomes frequent, and inner peace becomes a distant memory. The mind, instead of being a place to rest, becomes a cell where anger dictates the rules, reminding you of every argument, every hurtful word, every moment control was lost. Thus, anger becomes a shadow that follows you, an echo that won't let you escape. Because, at its core, not controlling anger means allowing something external to take the wheel of your relationships, your well-being, your very life. When anger strikes, it's like an unstoppable wave threatening to sweep everything away. But what if we could learn to surf it instead of being swept away by it? The key lies in what we do in the small moments before the storm breaks. Like when you feel that pressure in your chest, that heat rising up your neck, knowing that something is about to erupt. Right there, in that very moment, is where the magic of daily practices comes in. A deep breath, as if inhaling calm and exhaling tension, can be the first anchor you need. Do it every day, without expecting immediate results. Conscious breathing, for example, can be like a compass keeping you focused amid chaos. Every time anger begins to surface, close your eyes for a moment and count to 5. Inhale, hold, exhale, release. Something in those simple steps starts to calm the inner storm, softening the intensity. And although at first it may seem small, the power of breathing accumulates like raindrops soothing dry ground. The second step is observation, taking a few minutes a day to notice how you feel. Perhaps you've become so accustomed to your own anger that you no longer realize when it starts to build. Take a pause, even in moments of calm, and examine your mind. Are there unresolved tensions? Is something subtly but persistently bothering you? When you are aware of what's going on inside, you can act before anger takes control. Writing also becomes a powerful refuge. Putting those words down on paper takes the anger out of your body and places it somewhere else. It's not about making judgments or finding answers, but about venting what you feel, putting into words what sometimes seems uncontrollable. The simple act of writing can give you perspective, like a window opening in your mind, letting you see the complete picture. Moreover, physical movement is an underrated tool. Whether it's a walk, a few minutes of stretching, or just punching a pillow, when anger feels like pressure threatening to explode, the body needs to release that accumulated energy. Transforming that anger into action, something that moves and changes what you feel inside, is like letting go of the reins and letting it all flow. Finally, gratitude becomes a silent but effective balm. At the end of each day, take a moment to reflect on the good things you've experienced. It could be something as simple as a smile, a hug, or a personal accomplishment. The more you focus on the positive, the harder it becomes for anger to take over. It's a process, not something that changes overnight, but each day, in every small moment, these practices build an invisible armor. Over time, the wave of anger loses its strength and becomes something more manageable. The key is to repeat, again and again, the small actions that transform rage into control, chaos into calm. Breathing, so simple and often forgotten, is the silent compass we always carry within. The simple act of inhaling and exhaling has the power to transform chaos into calm, to restore control when everything feels like it's slipping away. Imagine that each breath is a gentle wave, coming in and out with the natural rhythm of the sea. In those moments of tension, like the wind brushing your face, breathing becomes your greatest ally. Start by finding a quiet place where you can close your eyes and feel in tune with your body. Inhale deeply, letting the air fill your abdomen, as if you were inflating a balloon inside you. Feel how your stomach expands, like a field coming to life under the sun. Then, exhale slowly, as if releasing everything that no longer serves you, like letting go of a tense rope you no longer need. Do it slowly, without hurry, like a river flowing effortlessly. Each exhale connects you more deeply to your inner peace. Now, try box breathing in 4 counts. Inhale for 4 seconds, as if taking a sip of fresh air. Hold the air inside for another 4 seconds, enjoying the silence created in that space. Then, exhale for 4 seconds, feeling the weight of your thoughts dissolve, and finally, remain without breathing for 4 seconds, simply in peace. This technique, though brief, creates a deep stillness. Each cycle is an anchor that keeps you in the present, preventing you from being swept away by external storms. During the day, even when everything seems overwhelming, remember the power of your breath. If you feel pressure building, simply use a 3-step breathing technique. Inhale deeply, fill your lungs completely, then hold the air for a brief moment, and as you exhale, imagine all your stress dissolving, as if the air exiting were a cloud vanishing. This simple process, repeated several times, reminds you that calm is always within reach of your breath. And don't forget alternate nostril breathing, which not only calms but also balances. Close one nostril with your finger, inhale deeply through the other. Switch sides and repeat. This practice, though simple, has the power to center your mind and restore harmony between your body and spirit. Each inhalation through one nostril and each exhalation through the other brings a quiet renewal, as if the universe is reminding you there is always space for peace. At the end of the day, when your body seeks rest, take a deep breath as you lie down. Imagine that each breath connects you to the earth, to the space around you, creating an invisible bridge between your being and universal calm. Thus, with each breath, you transform tension into tranquility, agitation into serenity. Breathing is not just the air entering and leaving your lungs. It's the magical tool that brings you back to yourself, an anchor that helps you find balance when the world seems to be spinning endlessly. Assertive communication is like a strong, well-built bridge that connects two distant shores, ours and others. It's not just about speaking but about choosing how to build that bridge, ensuring that each word becomes a safe, respectful crossing, not too rigid, not too hesitant. Imagine that each time you speak, you're throwing a stone into water. The ripples spread, and while each word is a stone, the impact should leave no mark on others or cause destructive waves. Assertiveness is about knowing exactly how to throw that stone, with the right intention, knowing when to do it and with what strength, so it reaches the other side without shattering the silence with unnecessary noise. It's easy to fall into awkward silence sometimes, letting words get trapped in the air like dry leaves that don't know where to go. Or maybe we shout with overflowing emotions, not measuring what we say, making each word like an arrow shot without seeing the target clearly. But assertive communication finds balance, a place where you feel safe expressing what you think while also listening, giving space for the other to express themselves in the same way. Remember, assertiveness is not just for confrontation. It's also for affirming who you are and what you need. It's like a garden where you plant your thoughts, while respecting the space where other seeds can sprout. Each time you communicate assertively, you plant seeds of respect and understanding. You show who you are without imposing, without invading others' space, because you know that the garden of communication blooms best when everyone has space to grow. Imagine each conversation as a dance, where one gives space to the other, and the rhythm is never lost because both are attentive to the signals. Assertive communication is that dance where you don't step on the other, nor overlook what the other is trying to say. It's a graceful flow, moving from the soul with the same ease as a river flowing to the sea, finding its natural course without getting lost in impatience or chaos. Every time you choose to speak with clarity, without fear but with respect, you strengthen that connection, that bridge that not only brings you closer to a place of understanding within yourself, but also guides the other to understand your point of view without needing to guess what you really want to communicate. Assertive communication is the rudder on your boat, allowing you to navigate the turbulent waters of relationships without losing course, knowing that each word is a clear direction, a map to mutual understanding. In every gesture, in every word, is the key to unlocking closed doors, to lighting extinguished lights. You just need to remember that the true essence of assertive communication isn't in what you say, but in how you say it, without fear of being yourself, without fear of making yourself heard. We have sailed together through the turbulent sea of anger, discovering that, although the waves can be strong, we can learn to surf them. We know that, in the end, it's not about avoiding the storms, but about learning to anchor ourselves firmly when the wind blows hardest. Every step we take toward control, every deep breath we take, brings us a little closer to the calm we so seek. And now, at the end of this journey, it's your turn to take the reins. With the tools we've shared, the waters of anger are no longer as frightening. You can navigate them with greater clarity, without being swept away by the sea. Remember, it's not about eliminating the storms, but about finding peace amidst them. If you feel that this path toward serenity has been helpful, that you've learned something you can apply today in your life, then don't forget to like this journey. If you felt accompanied and motivated, subscribe so we can continue exploring more landscapes of personal growth together. May your journey toward inner peace not end here. See you in the next episode, where you will keep growing and mastering the waves of life.